The day should have been pure happiness. Balloons in shaky colors hung across the living room, dollar store streamers sagging just a little in the heat. My son, Ethan, had been buzzing since morning, his little hands clapping when he saw the cake I managed to buy with tips from late-night cleaning shifts. His 7th birthday. I wanted him to feel like he mattered, like at least one person in this world saw him as worth celebrating. But the air was already poisoned before the candles were lit. My dad walked in with his heavy boots stomping against the floor like he owned not just the house, but every breath inside it. My mom followed, smirking, and behind them came my sister, Kayla, hair freshly dyed, nails glittering, wearing a new dress I knew she hadn't paid for. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video? Dad's eyes went straight to the balloons, the cake, the tiny pile of wrapped gifts I had scrounged together. He didn't smile. He barked out a laugh sharp as glass and said, "So this is what a leech wastes money on? Parties for brats who don't matter?" I froze. Ethan shrank closer to me, his smile faltering. "Dad, please," I started. But he cut me off, stepping closer, towering. "You think throwing a party makes you a mother? You can't even afford your own rent without crawling to us. And now you play pretend like you're somebody?" His voice grew louder, filling every corner of the room. Mom chuckled darkly. "Don't shout, dear. You'll scare the boy." Then again, maybe he should be scared. Maybe he should see what happens when garbage thinks it deserves more than scraps. Ethan clutched my arm, whispering, "Mommy, can we still eat cake?" His voice cracked on the last word, and it shredded me. But Dad heard it too, his face twisted with rage. "Cake?" he repeated, sneering. "Leeches don't get cake. Parasites don't throw parties. They get beat." And before I could move, his fist slammed into my chest, knocking the air out of me. I stumbled back against the table, the plates rattling, the candles on the cake flickering. Ethan screamed. I tried to shield him, but Dad grabbed my shirt and shoved me down to the floor. His boot hit my ribs once, twice, each blow ringing with the echo of his words. "Leech, leech, leech." The laughter came next. My mom, her laugh high and sharp like she'd been waiting for this moment. My sister covering her mouth in mock shock but grinning through her fingers. Even the relatives who had shown up, people I thought might at least look uncomfortable, they chuckled, looked away, pretended it was just another family joke. Ethan stood frozen, tears streaking his face, his little fists balled tight. "Stop! Stop hurting my mom!" he cried, his voice breaking, but no one listened. And then, as if it wasn't cruel enough, Mom walked past me lying on the floor, past Ethan's sobs, past the scattered cups and broken plates. She went to the cake, lifted it carefully in both hands, and with a sweet smile turned to Kayla. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she said to my sister. "You deserve it more than anyone, not her." Kayla leaned down, blew out the candles, and clapped like a child. "Make a wish," Mom teased. My son's face crumpled as he whispered, "But it's my birthday." The room roared with laughter. My father patted Kayla's shoulder like she'd done something noble. My mom sliced the first piece, not for Ethan, but for her precious daughter. Ethan looked at me, still lying half-broken on the floor, and I saw it in his eyes, confusion, betrayal, and something darker, the kind of memory that scars a child forever. That night, when the house was finally silent, when the last fake smiles had left, I sat with Ethan in the dark. His little hand in mine trembled. "Mommy," he whispered, "why don't they love us?" I couldn't answer. I just pulled him closer, vowing quietly that if they wanted to laugh, if they wanted to call us leeches and parasites, then I'd make sure their laughter ended, permanently. And for the first time in years, I stopped feeling fear. I started feeling fire. The next morning, the house still smelled of melted wax and stale frosting. The balloons hung limp, one of them burst, the ribbons trailing across the floor like discarded evidence of the party that never was. Ethan sat quietly on the couch, his knees pulled to his chest, his eyes swollen from crying all night. He hadn't touched his gifts. He hadn't smiled once. I brewed him some cocoa, set the cup in his little hands, and kissed his hair. "We'll make it better, I promise." I whispered. But even as I said it, the promise tasted like ash. Because I knew the truth. In this house, in this family, there was no better. Not unless I made it. The door creaked open and my mom's heels clicked against the floor. She looked at me like I was still lying on the ground from last night. "Don't look so dramatic," she said casually, grabbing her purse. "It was just a lesson. You should thank your father for teaching you reality. Nobody respects beggars who throw parties." I clenched my jaw. My ribs still throbbed from Dad's kicks. My lip was split. My arms ached from trying to shield myself, but worse than any bruise was Ethan's silence. "Where's Dad?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Working," she said, her lips curling into a smirk. "You know, at a real job? Not like you, wasting time scrubbing other people's toilets for pennies. You should have saved the little money you had instead of wasting it on candles and balloons." She spit the words like venom. Ethan flinched. "And Kayla?" I asked, though I already knew. My mom's smile widened. "She's out shopping with her friends. She loved the cake, by the way. Said it was the best one she's had in years. Finally, something you did right." I swallowed the burn in my throat, forcing my eyes to stay dry, because if I let her see me cry, she would win. After she left, I sat beside Ethan. He turned to me, his voice small. "Mom, am I bad?" My heart cracked. "No, baby, you're the best thing in my life. Don't you ever believe their lies." "But," he hesitated, "Grandma said I don't deserve cake. Grandpa said we're leeches. If they're right, will you still love me?" That was the moment I knew. They weren't just breaking me anymore, they were poisoning him. And if I didn't fight back, if I didn't do something, they would destroy him piece by piece until he grew up believing he was worthless. I cupped his face in my hands. "Listen to me, Ethan. You are worth everything. And one day, they will learn what it feels like to lose everything they laugh about. Do you understand?" He nodded, though his eyes still shimmered with doubt. So, from that day on, I stopped trying to beg for scraps of their approval. I went quiet. I let them think they had won. I let them laugh louder, call me names sharper, push me deeper into the shadows. Because silence gave me time. Dad would walk past me grumbling, "Still useless." I didn't respond. Mom would wave Kayla's shopping bags in my face, bragging, "This is what success looks like." I didn't blink. Kayla herself smirked, "Better luck next life, sis." I just smiled faintly like a broken doll. But inside, I was building. I started saving, not just money, though every extra dollar from my shifts I hid where they'd never find it. I saved moments, words, patterns, the way my mom locked her jewelry box, the way Dad stormed out of the house with his work bag stuffed with envelopes, the way Kayla left her phone carelessly on the counter, filled with messages bragging about what she'd stolen, lied about, or cheated to get. They thought I was a ghost. I became their shadow instead. At night, when Ethan slept, I traced the bruises still faint on my ribs, and I planned. Every insult replayed in my head, every laugh, every time their eyes glanced at Ethan like he was less than human, I carved it into my memory like a weapon. But I wasn't rushing. No, I wanted the timing to be perfect. Revenge wasn't about a single moment. It was about making them choke on their own pride, bite by bite, until they couldn't swallow anymore. One evening, weeks later, Dad sat at the table, drinking. His voice boomed through the house. "You're nothing, you hear me? Nothing without us. We feed you. We clothe you. You don't exist without us." I smiled faintly, washing dishes at the sink. Because in his drunken rant, I heard the truth. They needed me more than they'd ever admit. My silence, my obedience, my role as their punching bag, it was their entertainment, their glue. Without me, they'd turn on each other. And I decided I would give them exactly what they deserved. The plan came together slowly, one thread at a time. I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I didn't cry anymore. I listened. I learned. And I waited. One night, Ethan asked me, "Mommy, when will they stop laughing at us?" I kissed his forehead and whispered, "When I decide it's time." And in that quiet vow, I felt my power return. The day I chose to strike wasn't special on the calendar, but in my mind, it was marked in red. Dad was shouting in the living room, tossing his boots off like a king throwing scraps. Mom was counting bills at the table, whispering to herself. Kayla strutted in with a new dress, still tagged. And Ethan sat in the corner, drawing quietly on a scrap of paper. His picture was of a family, but only me and him were smiling. That was the moment. I stood, wiping my hands on my jeans. My voice was steady, colder than they had ever heard it. "Do you want to know something funny?" They all looked up, surprised. I rarely spoke. Dad narrowed his eyes. "What's this? The leech found her tongue?" Mom chuckled. "Careful, she might beg for another pity cake." Kayla rolled her eyes. "This should be good." I walked slowly to the table, pulling a thick envelope from my bag. I laid it down with a slap. "You always called me useless, but while you mocked me, I was watching. While you starved me, I was saving. While you laughed at me, I was learning every one of your secrets." Mom's hands froze over her pile of cash. Dad's smirk twitched. "What is this?" he barked. I pushed the envelope closer. "Proof. Proof of every lie, every theft, every scam. You think I didn't know?" "Dad, those envelopes you hide aren't from work. They're from gambling debts." "Mom, that jewelry box isn't filled with heirlooms. It's filled with pawn tickets from the things you stole and replaced with fakes." "And Kayla?" I looked directly at her, letting my words slice. "Your little shopping sprees are funded by credit cards you opened in other people's names." Kayla's jaw dropped. You're lying." I smiled thinly. "Am I?" I opened the envelope and spilled the contents across the table. Copies of letters, screenshots, photos I had carefully collected. Dad's IOUs signed with his angry scrawl. Mom's receipts, dates circled in red. Kayla's messages bragging about her scams. The room went silent. Ethan looked up from his drawing, his eyes wide. Mom's face turned pale, then blotchy with rage. You little snake!" I slammed my hand on the table. "No, you don't get to call me names anymore. For years you used me as your punching bag. You made me believe I was nothing. You let my son cry himself to sleep thinking he was worthless. But today is the last day you ever laugh at us." Dad surged forward, his fist clenched. "You think you can threaten me in my own house?" I didn't flinch. "I don't need to threaten you, because I already sent copies of everything to people who matter. Debtors, victims, even a reporter. By morning, your world won't exist." The color drained from his face. For the first time, Dad looked small. Mom tried to gather the papers, but her hands shook too hard. Kayla collapsed into a chair, muttering, "No, no, no." I leaned closer, my voice a whisper sharp enough to cut glass. "Remember what you said, Dad? Leeches don't throw parties." Well, guess what? You were the leeches all along, feeding off lies, off me, off everyone. Now you'll see what happens when the blood runs out. For the first time, Ethan smiled. A small, fragile smile, but it was there. I took his hand. "Come on, baby, we're leaving." As we walked to the door, Mom screamed, "Where will you go? You'll starve without us." I turned back one last time. "No, Mom, I starved because of you. Without you, we'll finally breathe." I shut the door behind me. The air outside was cold, sharp, alive. Ethan squeezed my hand tighter. "Mom, are we really free?" I knelt in front of him, brushing his hair back. "Yes, and soon they'll finally know what it feels like to be powerless." And as we walked away, I heard it start the first shouts of panic inside the house. Papers scattering, chairs scraping, their voices breaking into chaos. For once, it wasn't laughter. It was fear. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.